Thanks everybody for joining this afternoon. We're going to take a little bit of time today to talk about the transformation in customer engagement, and I'm joined today by Danny McMullen, who's one of our technical consultants. My name's Iain Sinnott. I'm the group head of customer engagement here at CloudClevr, and I'm going to try and take us through a little bit of a conversation. Hopefully this will be thought-provoking for those of you who are running businesses and looking for ways in which you can improve the way your business operates, especially when it comes to the engagement with customers. If this is the first time you've come to a CloudClevr event, if you're a prospective customer rather than an existing customer, I just thought I'd kick off with a little bit of a short version of the Genesis story. CloudClevr is an organization that's backed by the Rigby Group, which is one of the biggest and most committed supporters of the UK tech sector. And in September 2022, we kicked off, and from there proceeded to acquire 4 highly successful businesses from different regions around the country and with different strategic product focuses. And the idea was to bring together organizations of different types who could together create a portfolio of product and expertise commensurate with the way that the communications and IT worlds have converged over time. And as well as bringing together organizations, sales and support, that sort of thing, we also invested in the development of a unique tool designed to support the investigation of IT and security and performance analytics within the technology base that our customers have, but also to look at the adoption and the successful ROI of products as we supply them to the customers and as time moves forward. So within the first period of time, we've created this broad portfolio with a big depth of experience, and we backed it with some technology that helps us to investigate across what we call our 3 practices and our 6 pillars of technology. So the 3 practices are IT and security, digital workspace, network services, and the pillars that fall into those categories are IT services and security and assurance, connectivity, mobility, collaboration, and customer contact. And sitting between them all is the Clever 360 analytics and support platform. And behind each of these various product headers, we've got multiple different disciplines. And important probably to state that behind that, we also have a number of different vendor relationships. So when we engage with our customers, it's very easy for us to focus on the customer's operational requirements, staff requirements, customer requirements, rather than looking to present just a vendor solution in the hope that it's going to match your expectations. So throughout all of the activity that we do, and as I say, if this is the first time you've come to one of our events and you've seen one of our presentations, we try and encapsulate everything and create an environment which we call the customer technology partnership, in which our salespeople, our account support people, our product experts sit very closely with not only the decision makers, but the key stakeholders within our customers' businesses. And we investigate the business challenges that the business has got at the present time, but also the ambitions and the route that they want to take. And we bring in Clever 360 to augment the human discussion with some real insight and into current performance and future opportunities. So today what we're going to do is we're going to focus on one of those practices. We're going to look at the digital workspace. And within that, we'll see comms and collaboration, which is to you and me, telephony and the meeting and collaboration tools. Now, these are relatively well understood products these days, and I'm sure you are more than familiar with the use of the Teams, WebEx, and other meeting collaboration providers, along with either former PBX or UC products that are now available to you. So we're going to focus on what is probably the more vogue and also the likely driver of a higher return on investment from technology, and that is the customer contact space. You'll see just a few of the brand names that we work with, a few of the vendors that we work with in terms of supplying customers with the relevant solutions. And we're happy to partner with quite a portfolio of extremely capable but reasonably diverse vendor partners. And I think as we go through this conversation, myself and Danny will probably express exactly how it's as important for us to have a diversity in capability and a diversity in cost in order to satisfy where you are as a customer on the journey of deploying technology, and make sure that it is a prudent and relevant investment that you make, partnered by our advice. Now, the driving elements that come into the customer contact environment can be simplified down perhaps to increasing the revenues of your business, decreasing the churn of customers from your business, and enhancing the net promoter score or the customer experience. So we tend to summarize it down with UX, your user experience, your staff experience, and this becomes more and more important with a high level of competition on contact center and support staff and that sort of thing. So making sure your staff are able to work comfortably and efficiently and enjoyably, as well as the customer experience, your customer's ability to get the answers that they want, the support that they want, or get through to buy the products that they want as efficiently as possible. So we're going to step through that, and I think it would be a surprise to me if you haven't spent most of the year listening to many tales about the advancing benefits of the AI world. But during this conversation, what I want us to do is just take a little look wider than that and a little look back at the other areas of intelligent automation, sorry, forget my own words, intelligent automation alongside artificial intelligence, and that coupled with balancing up the use of the human resources. And Danny, if I just bring you in for the first time here, we've spoken about this quite a lot over the course of 2024 as we listen to customers and how they go through. And it is fair to say that there is a lot of information kicking around on AI at the present time. How do you see the balance or the need for focus on intelligent automation as well as artificial intelligence?
That's a good question. I think that the intelligent automation piece is heavily linked with artificial intelligence, but in its purest form for the last 10 years, we've been looking at things like the IDMV process, automatic replies, rules-based, static routing of calls. And intelligent automation for me is all around that upfront piece when it comes to delivering people to the right place and doing it intelligently, but it doesn't necessarily involve AI as such. But when you bring the two things together, you can do some really clever stuff.
Well, let's start off by walking through some stuff, because when we were planning our conversation today, we talked about it in 4 particular segments. We talked about interaction routing, or in simplistic terms, getting the customer either to one of our customer-facing staff or the answer, because the customer is looking for the answer, not necessarily a route to a human. Then we talked about the interaction handling, so that interface between our customers or our customers' customers and their agents. We then move it through to the post-contact experience, what happens in the wrap-up phase, and that's a contact center term, I know, but what happens when the engagement with the customer is finished, how much time is required, what diligence is required in the post-call environment, and then how we deal with and utilize the strength of data and analytics in order to make the business improve and to take as much learning out of it as we can. And what we intend to do today for you in the audience is just to work through some of these. We've created a slide deck which has got some busy words on it, and you'll see some slides come through as I go through, which have got some comment on there. That's really for your takeout. We'll send this slide deck out to you afterwards. But what we hope to do is take you through this cycle of discovering, learning, understanding, and exploring, and encourage you to sit down looking uniquely at your business with our team, our product experts, but also your account managers, etc., to see exactly what is the most appropriate future planning for yourselves. But let's just kick off and start by talking about the way in which we bring the customer into contact with our customers' businesses, how you as customers of ours would use these tools to bring your customer through the process. And Danny, I've written it down as the old world and the new world. That's not really meant to suggest that old world products are inappropriate, but for many of us, we've gone through the early stages of contact center setups. We didn't like the term contact center very often, but we're using it more and more. So we've gone for this original setting up, but there is a change of direction. And I think one of the things you were highlighting to me the other day when we were talking about this was that this is very much business and outcome specific rather than being too general. Is that right when we talk about the new world stuff?
I think, yeah, the new world, when it comes to routing and self-service, the objective is about getting that person or that interaction to the right person on the best channel to deliver the best outcome at the lowest cost. You know, that's it in a nutshell. And all of the things that you've listed on the right there, dynamic IVRs, intelligent routing, chatbots, they're all designed to achieve that or to improve the metrics that surround that. So, you know, improving wait time for customers, making sure that they get first call resolution. Yeah, that's all a part of that.
And it's fair to say that when we sit down and talk to businesses, it's very much about understanding who their customers are, what their technology tolerance is, what the value of the interactions are. You know, chatbots are mentioned time and time again, but if you're looking for a low cost to serve and you've got some simplistic questions to answer, these really come into the fore, don't they?
Yeah.
That you don't have to route through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you were to take interaction routing and look at it in its purest form with the new world, what you're trying to do is identify who the customer is, if possible, capture what the intent of that customer is. Then you decide, what should I do with this interaction? Should I self-serve it? Should I channel shift it to something that's likely to get a better outcome from the customer, or it's cheaper for us to service it that way? Or is there a reason to put this person straight through to a real agent? And all the way through that, you're capturing the data breadcrumbs throughout that routing process so that you can later deliver that as a package to the agent to give them some context, some understanding of why this customer is now wanting to reach out, and deliver it so that they can hit the ground running, really.
And we talk about dynamic IVRs. I mean, this is basically, if I've got 20 staff sitting there waiting to take a contact from a customer, let's call it a call for the sake of the old language, I don't have any reason to route them or give them a chance to route anywhere if their best customer experience is through my team. The dynamism comes in when I'm overloading a bit.
Yeah, I think if you take a step back, and you know, one of the foundational building blocks of being able to use any of this technology is about integrating your business tools, so your CRM, and making sure that it's integrated into a CCaaS platform. So whether that be out of the box APIs and standard integrations, creating that communication path between your customer data and the CCaaS or the tooling is essential. Once you've done that, you know, the first step, you identify the customer, you look up their account. If that customer is in a state of complaint, for example, their account is in a rep code, or that they're in a state of complaint, rather than offering them 15 IVR options, there's no point in doing that. They're already annoyed. Just put them straight through to the complaints department. So having that communication in place enables you to do that, which delivers a better customer experience, etc. And then ultimately a better agent experience because the customer's less annoyed when they do arrive at the agent.
So it's probably a general point, even if you have got a decent structure for your inbound call and contact management, to review and see how you can enhance that, how you can read the customer more closely. And I guess, as you and your team have found out, you sit down talking about the other tools within the business, not just the ones that we might be the supplier of.
Yeah.
in order to make sure that they work seamlessly together.
Yeah, it's essential just to understand the landscape we're integrating to, what technical debt exists, what restrictions there are. There's a lot of nuances in business. They're all in different places in their wider technology roadmap or migration to cloud or whatever that may be. So we have to absorb all that information in order to make the best decisions for them, or make them understand what's realistic within the timeframes that they're trying to achieve something.
Cool. Okay. Well, again, what we're looking for here is faster service and richer experience for the customer, value, a feeling from the agent side that they're able to deliver value, that they are creating a happier conversation with the customers, they're enjoying their day more. And we know that there's quite a lot of churn out of support teams these days with choices to work anywhere and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
And for the business, it's down to that saving the cost on the operating side and improving that satisfaction, which normally comes through in the form of profits or revenues, etc., going forward, recommendations as well. So
yeah.
We've stored a couple of notes for you guys when you take the slide deck down before, but let's move on and just talk about the second stage, which again we'll look at from an old world and a new world performance. This is where we brought the human asset into contact with our customers. And I think we were saying that we see this as a more general evolutionary trend. There's still differences with each organization, but these are enhancement tools in general for a customer-facing member of staff. Is that right?
Yeah, this is what a lot of people try to attack first. This is what people are looking to do in terms of creating that single unified agent desktop. Omnichannel, the buzzword that's been around for the last 5 years, falls into this category. So this one's a big one. Certainly from an integration perspective, from a re-engineering processes and how agent works, and ultimately how customers are served.
Okay, so this is arming the human resources, and as I always like to say when I'm talking to customers, we have to respect where they are on their technical journey as well. It's about adoption. It's not about owning the tools. It's about how the adoption can go through, how the workflows fit, and how the people are trained into it. So is that a consideration that you and the team are doing when you're sitting down consulting with customers on this?
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to this side, the first questions I like to ask are the old school contact center KPIs. What's the wait time? What's the idle time? What's the average handling time? What does first call resolution look like? Do you have high agent attrition? How are your ends, your CSAT and your NPS scores? Once we get a feel for them, we can start to focus in on what's most important. But ultimately, the objective here is to reduce handling time, improve customer and agent experience, achieve better first call resolution. And I think that's done by firstly creating a single pane of glass for the agent to work in. So it's less cluttered, there's less for them to do to get to the information they need. With omnichannel there, the second one listed, is a really important one. Historically, contact centers have been multi-channel, where you have one system doing email, one system doing your voice calls, one system for web chat, completely unaware of each other. A customer could send an email and then phone up, and the agent be completely unaware that the email had just come in. That's the omnichannel side to it. So bringing all that together into the same interface, so they can see the full interaction history for that customer. They can, really get to grips with what that customer's been through for the last week, or how long they've been interacting with this particular customer journey. And then empowering them with tools within that same interface, all of the AI and agent assistant that can come in, knowledge, surfacing knowledge base information for the more complex queries. We've got co-browsing and screen sharing there as one listed, which is a powerful tool when certainly with charities where people are applying for grants. It's good for customers to be able to screen share when they're filling in difficult forms. There's no end of tooling available within that, and a really powerful one is that AI powered real-time assistant, which it's listening to the call in real time. It's looking at the pacing of the way that the agent's speaking. We're going to talk about quality analytics, but in terms of real-time analytics, that's really powerful in that context. If a customer is being spoken over by an agent constantly, it can flag to a supervisor that that's happening. They can listen in, they can see whether something needs to happen. So there's a hell of a lot going on when it comes to this part in terms of the technology advancement.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things that we saw coming out of the pandemic, and the fact that everybody had a camera and a headset and could do a virtual meeting, is that there is now the opportunity to do show and tell rather than guess the question. when we're talking to a customer. So not for every experience that you're coming through, but
No.
I've got a leak on the floor is easier to show than to describe, perhaps.
We've had some niche ones like that. We work with a company that manufactured kitchens, and when something was delivered that was damaged, through the application, we're able to allow the customer to take a picture on the phone, pump that straight through to the agent so they could see the damage. That type of thing is becoming more used. People are accepting of it, and customers are more willing to engage in that way.
Yeah, and I think from a point of view of your reputation being passed around the pub afterwards, I think when we see innovation being used by our supplier, we are for once happy to talk about a good news story rather than a bad news story, because I think it impresses me when I meet somebody who's invested a little bit extra in making my journey through their support team easier.
Yeah.
But again, so we're not just talking about the customer experience, but perhaps the competitive advantage and the reputational advantage.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, this stuff can save so much time. Just the unified agent and bringing it all together. Average call times can go down from 7 minutes a call down to 4 minutes a call. That if you've got 100 agents, that's 30 agents that you either don't need or you can repurpose to do more valuable work. That's a lot of money. At 25k and onboarding an agent every year, that's a lot of money, a lot of savings. That'll pay for this software tenfold. And it's about unearthing that gap and trying to make people realize that we're not replacing PBXs with PBXs anymore. This is a whole different opportunity.
Yeah. And it's that optimization, isn't it? You can either have a lower cost, i.e. fewer people, or you can have shorter queues and less abandonment from your queue, because the cost of an abandoning customer is often more than the price of an agent sitting at a desk. So it's good to have that two-way view of where the actual benefit of these toys is. So okay, well let's roll through again. Faster resolution, customer consistency in experience, reducing cognitive load, i.e. making the agent's life a little bit easier and increasing efficiency, and then efficiency and customer satisfaction again. So there are a myriad of different outtakes that our customers can take from this sort of stuff. But again, it's like any good formula, isn't it? The more you put into the thought process, the understanding of the customer experience, the understanding of the agent experience, and the realities of the cost of failing to provide the smoothest service have to be done first in order to generate an understanding of where investment is worthwhile.
I think that the agent experience thing is really undervalued as well sometimes, because one of the key costs in contact centers is agent attrition. It's a free for all. People move around left, right, and center, and keeping an agent happy and in that role for longer. This stuff is really powerful in doing that. Giving them an easy life, taking away the boring, mundane stuff, giving them work to do that's more valuable, and making it really easy for them to do their job. That's what will keep an agent sat at a desk, not the old world time-consuming process, siloed systems, clicking through 15 windows, dealing with angry customers all the time. These things make you leave a business, and it costs $2,000 to recruit an agent just with an agency. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and again, I know that when you and your team are sitting down with customers and talking about this stuff, it is all about the overall business effect of technology, not just how's the queue moving, what's the wait time, what is the impact of this. And sometimes the impact isn't great enough because of the product values and that sort of thing to overinvest, but sometimes it can be really enlightening as to how much technology spend you can make and still end up with a much bigger driven profit. So cool. Well, look, let's go on to this. And I found this one interesting this year. This is probably the one that's been growing the most in terms of what I'm listening to from the marketplace and from the customers, and when we sit down and we share some experiences with prospects and customers, and that is what happens after the contact. Because the detail of the outtake, the next actions, is very often where we win the customers, sort of more long-term loyalty. What do you see in this particular space, and how do you see the AI elements coming into play in here?
The way I've used this part is it's overlapped with the last part. So the agent has still got work to deal with that interaction. So when we talk around average handling time, wrap up is part of that. How long does it take to wrap up the call? And there's a lot that can be done to reduce that time. So reducing the handling time for this interaction, that's achieved through automatically summarizing the call. Automatically updating CRMs and other systems that need to be updated, so they don't have to do multiple things in multiple places, making sure they schedule follow-up actions and things like that. But yeah, speeding up the process here is really important, and ensuring that the follow-up tasks are completed quickly, getting that agent ready for the next interaction as fast as possible, bringing down those queue times from your contact center KPIs. But yeah, like you said, a common request that we seem to be getting at the moment is certainly around summarization of the call. Voice to text transcription plus a summary of that transcription, and then pumping that back into CRMs and other data repositories around the business so that data can be used elsewhere. And it's really powerful. Generative AI in this space is really, really, really useful.
And in terms of your customer interactions, do you find yourself being brought in to discuss this sort of stuff, but needing to invite the customer to go backwards a couple of steps and then come back to this after you've had a look at the rest of it?
Yeah, that's bang on. Yeah, they always come in with sort of the AI and the buzzwords that are around, and we do tend to have to take a step back and go, look, have you looked at how your IVR actually works today? Have you called your own phone lines? Do you know what's happening at this point? Because the low hanging fruit tends to be at the front. How are we routing calls? How are agents dealing with calls? Are they dealing with 15 applications to deal with a simple query? These things can return much bigger return on investments. Once you've dealt with them, then we move on to some of this more advanced stuff. And yeah, that tends to be the conversations that I'm having.
So you like a good build-up before you start putting the roof on.
Absolutely,
you're going to go and check the foundations and the walls are standing properly before you do that. So
yeah, there's things that are just easier to get a return on investment from in those first instances. You're going to CFO, you're asking for X amount of money to deliver something. Granted, AI summarization of a call is really fancy and it gives you a lot of data and you can do lots of clever things with it. But if you've got a call queue which is massive and you're losing customers left, right, and center, if we could fix that pays for all of this and more, and you can go to town with all the fancy stuff later.
And I think that's when we come back to it, and we tend to talk about road mapping all the time. So we're not looking at the solution being a one hit and gone. We're talking about evolving our customers through a technology roadmap. It might be that we need to dedicate 6, 9, 12 months to the foundational work before we can create an impact with this higher level stuff, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much of it. And to be honest, I work in it every day. We've got multiple solutions, a very deep portfolio of products when it comes to CCaaS, and the evolution of it is such a pace. That there's constantly more features and functionality. There's no way that any one customer could eat it all at once. You've got to chunk it up, look where the low-hanging fruit is, plan that against business objectives and what needs to be done. You've got regulatory things coming in as well to hit you to change that roadmap. You've got technical debt. There's other dependencies and other projects. You might be deploying a new CRM at the same time. So it's essential to roadmap it out over several phases and do it that way.
Cool. Okay. Well, look, we'll just roll on to the last segment, and I think when we started discussing this, I'm a sort of business consultant problem solver, and I started to think about how I could use the data to understand the root cause and end the need for a customer service call. But I think you were helping me to understand some of the real power in analyzing everything rather than analyzing some things in here. How do you see this analytical world evolving in the next little while?
Well, how it will evolve moving forward is, it's already pretty powerful. I don't know where it's going from here. I think it's more interesting to look back and say where we were on this one, because if you had a team of, if you had a contact center with 500 people in it, you might have 10, 15, 20 people working, listening to calls and scorecarding them, and only sampling 1 in 10 calls for every agent. The new world now, we've got, I mean, to be fair, speech analytics platforms have been automated in the past without the need for AI, but they were very cumbersome. They needed a team of people just manage the analytics platform in order to get that rule-based detection piece going, and that automatic scorecard, you know, keeping it moving was almost hard work. Now with AI, we can score every single call. It's done automatically. It brings out the insight automatically. It looks for trends, issues, training needs, and the tooling that sits around that makes it easy to deliver that directly to an agent within, you know, the interface that we just talked about before. So it just massively improves training time, and the accuracy levels are now through the roof in terms of detecting trends, issues, looking for, you know, what customers are saying. I mean, the power of this, you know, I mean, some of it is literally counting the seconds between words. It's looking at how fast an agent is speaking. It's literally like linguistic training for an agent. It's going to that level to improve how they are seen, and you know, it's bringing together all the agents and getting them all working under the same tone. It's looking at sentiment analysis. Yeah, it's extremely powerful when delivered right. It's the cream on top, is this. Once you've got all those other building blocks in place, and yeah, you start to use this, you get some real operational insight, and you can make some really good business decisions off the back of it.
And if I've reduced my headcount in the team listening to calls and that sort of thing, I can, bearing in mind the churn of agents being one of the more expensive factors, yep, I can reinvest a bit more agent development, agent support time, yep, with management, etc., rather than just trawling through the data. Right?
Yeah, I mean, in a contact center I used to work in, we had actually an academy, and at any point there would be 40 agents training to move into the actual contact center. And when they first put speech analytics in a few years back now, one of the more older complex ones, one of the real return on investment factors was reducing that training time. So yeah, getting them out of academy and into the contact center faster, because you're paying them while they're in academy, they're not doing as much, and that was how that cost was justified. So yeah, training, feedback, that's one of the key return on investments when it comes to automatic quality management and these tools. Yeah.
But then we put it in the context of the other type of contact center customers that we have, the ones who've got 20, 30 people in customer facing roles in a, you know, sort of 200, 400 person business. This small group have got quite a responsibility on the customer engagement. Management often has other jobs to do. So yeah, we tend to see a fall off on the focus on development and training and that sort of thing. And this sort of information can bring that back much more easily, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this type of technology wasn't available to 30, 40 seat contact centers because they couldn't afford to run those teams. The cost didn't stack up. So the advent of AI, the ability that is off the shelf, you don't need to heavily configure it. It provides that insight just by clicking a button. That's why this is now powerful. That's why we're now talking about it for our small to medium customers, because it can be achieved and it can provide that insight and massively improve the agent's ability to service the customers.
Yeah, and I think that's been a real uplift for everybody in terms of being able to bring greater levels of technical power even into the smaller organizations or the smaller teams within big organizations when it's a more moderate group of people working at the same time. So just wanted to run through and thank you everybody for staying with the conversation. Let us know in feedback how you found the conversation. If you've got any questions, do fire them in, or probably more appropriately, get an account manager or a product expert to sit down and have a chat with you and start your exploration into the next 2, 3, 4 years of investment in this customer engagement piece. But one of the things that we wanted to sort of highlight, and I showed the vendor logos at the start, the number of people that we work with in this space. We have a lot of customers, Danny, who are on a different part of a journey, you know, early stages, advanced stages, but we also have product suppliers, product vendors who have started off with a more constrained feature set and are gradually evolving that, but they're evolving it against the new world, not the old world. So it's quite an interesting blend of being functionally less rich, but developing in the right place for some of our small, medium customers coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. All of the different vendors are at a different stage of their product roadmaps. I think we touched on it the other day when we were speaking about this, that, Nice in Contact, for example, one of the products we sell, it's all the bells, all the whistles, it does everything. They've got a roadmap granted, but they're already at the very top of their game in terms of being able to offer or meet any requirement that a customer brings to us. But that comes at a cost, they're not the cheapest. And there's other vendors that are younger vendors, let's say, they're equally as capable. They offer all the resilience, all the regulatory compliance, etc., etc. And their journey is a little bit behind that of, for example, Nice. And we can match the customer requirements with that type of product. They'll get a bigger return on investment again, because that product will be slightly cheaper. It will meet their needs, but it will be able to grow with them in terms of, as the product roadmap for that vendor grows, then they will come up behind them. They will start to deploy some of this tooling, which they're not quite ready for, and then in lockstep grow with that vendor. We do see prices tend to go up as the vendors get more capable, but as the customers onboarding more and more of the features, they're going to have, that's justified.
And this is where the adoption thing comes in. If we've been able to match the feature sets so that they're adopted, used, and deliver the sort of benefits that they can, even if there is a marginal rise in the unit cost as a vendor matures, the benefit structure is by then so high. It's I'm going to say immaterial because I'm not a paying customer, but it's less material in terms of the equation of return on investment. So.
Yeah, and once they've got to that later stage, the architecture that they've put around their IT environment, the cloud strategy, things will be a little bit more segmented. So they might even get 2-3 years down the line and pivot to a different product. Maybe Nice in Contact is for them at that point. And we can help people with that as well.
And that's it. That it's all about staying with the business challenges, staying with the business objectives, and trying to match that to the way we do it. I'm just going to thank Danny. Thanks very much for taking us through that. I know it's a bigger subject than you can really cover specifically for different types of customers and the range of customers that we work with. But hopefully, as an audience, this stimulates a thought. How should we sit down? Which pieces should we talk through first? Have we recognized the fundamental building blocks, and have we put them into a good state before we start investing and trying our hand with some of the more advanced tools that are coming into the conversations these days? If I was, I put up this diagram every time I tend to speak, because I'm a firm believer that a product on its own does nothing, and it won't create an outcome, and it won't generate the ROI that you're looking for unless we've properly mapped it against the capabilities and adoption willingness of your people and fitted it into your process. So if we're engaging with you, and we'd like to invite you to get us to come in and join you on your search for 2025 improvements, I'd be looking at things like reevaluating your customers' expectations, because not only is the technology changing, not only are the staff changing, staff requirements changing, but the customers are changing as well. So, let's look at their expectations and their level of tolerance. Let's qualify the value of the human-to-human engagement, because automating everything is an easy thing to say, but if the real advantage is to make sure that the high-value human interactions happen faster and there's more time for them, then that's where some of the advanced stage manipulation of easy questions or simplistic stuff is probably more appropriate. And look at the equation, that ratio between activity time for staff and admin time for staff. So that's an area, as I said, that I've personally seen a real evolving conversation this year. And then draw a map of all the systems involved in your customer engagement. So let's not look at this in isolation for a particular subject, a contact center solution or whatever. Let's talk about the toolkit that you've invested in so far and how we can make sure that we're extracting the most benefit from those other tools that are in the mix, as well as the people and the processes that you've got. And again, AI, IA, let's look at these new evolutions against the costs and the benefits that they deliver to you. So all of that wrapped up in our customer technology partnership. I think we haven't really got much time for any questions. So do please reach out to our team if you've got them. If we've got any in the hopper, we'll come back to you directly. But Danny, thanks very much for taking us through. Any closing thoughts from you before we go?
From a contact center perspective, I'd probably encourage people to call their own phone lines, buy a product from your company, put yourself in the customer's shoes. There might be already some things that you can do to improve it using the technology you've got today. That's often what we will do when we engage with a customer, and we'll advise them even on a product that we don't provide them. And you'd be surprised how many people haven't phoned their own phone lines.
Okay, well, I think that's sound advice, and certainly if you're engaging with us and working with our teams, our ambition is to get it right for you. And sometimes that's about doing a little bit of research. They may know your voice, they won't know ours. Let's go and see where the land lies and get a true reflection from the customer side before we start helping you to redesign that through. But Danny, thanks very much indeed for your time. Audience, thanks very much indeed for your time. I hope you have a great afternoon, and we look forward to you reaching out to us and joining us around your board table to investigate your business, or at the next event we run. We hope you will join us again and enjoy another conversation about technology and the benefit that we can help you extract from it. Thanks very much. Have a great